Welcome,
Hello,
everyone. We're
hello,
just going to wait for everyone to get in because we have lots
welcome.
tonight.
Turn your cameras on if you want to. We like to see you. Not required, but
Not required at all.
All right, just a few more and then we'll get started. Welcome. Oh, it's so fun to see faces. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
All right. Still a few more coming in, so we'll just give them a chance here. And then we'll get started. All right, you don't need yarn or anything for this tutorial. We're just the ideas that you can watch and just get a flavor for what's going on. And it is recorded. We are recording everything, so you can go back and watch this later. So don't feel like you're need to learn everything right away. But we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Suzanne Nielsen, and this is Laura Cameron, and we are your hosts for tonight. And Roxanne is with us too. She's the founder and creator of Zen Yarn Garden. And this is the 58th Tutorial Tuesday that we've done. So if you want to see any of the other ones, like I said, they're all recorded, so you can go back and look for those. And like I said, all of the tutorials are sponsored by Zen Yarn Garden. But tonight we have a little bit of a special guest sponsor, ChiaoGoo. We get to give away a mini set. So I'm going to be using it and we'll show you. But we get to give away one of those. So stay tuned. We're going to give it away later at the end of the tutorial. And Laura is going to, I don't know, do you want to tell us a little bit about that now, Laura? Or
we can do that.
All right.
So let me share my screen just briefly.
Laura's going to be keeping an eye on the chat and answering any questions that you have there. And I'm going to be showing you the actual tutorial here. Laura's also going to talk about the yarn at some point with us.
So the needle set we're talking about is the ChiaoGoo Twist mini set. And that includes stainless steel tips from US triple aught to US 1.5, 3 cable lengths, and all the connectors, and it all comes in a nice little case along with a sizing guide and a few other tools. So these are great to knit socks with. And we are talking about socks tonight. So part of the reason we're talking about socks is because Zen Yarn Garden has recently debuted a new sock yarn, and they're calling this In Sync because what it is it's a sock blank or a sock cake with 2 strands in it, meaning you can knit 2 identical socks from the same cake. And so they first started with gradient cakes so that they can dye them up and you can have 2 beautiful socks that are dyed in a gradient. And this was what our first pair looked like. And my guess is that Suzanne is going to be able to show those to you. And then we also went ahead and dyed some other sort of variegated colors. So your socks will match, but they are not necessarily all gradient colors. The pair that I knit was approximately 60 stitches and they pooled. So that they may or may not stripe depending on how many stitches you end up knitting to fit your foot. But that is sort of where we're going tonight. And the pattern that we selected for this tutorial and for our samples is, let me just pull this over just a bit, is a free pattern from the Knit Picks design team. You can either download it on Ravelry or you can download it from Knit Picks, and I will put this link in the chat as soon as I get back to that. And it is called 2 at Once Toe Up Magic Loop Socks. So there are 2 ways to knit socks. If you have knit socks before, there's top down and there's toe up. And the reason we picked toe up this time is because when you have a gradient sock cake, you want to use every last little bit of that gradient. And if you're knitting from the top down, then you have to kind of guesstimate where you should start your heel and how long your foot and toe are going to be. But if you start at toe up, you can basically knit all your way through the gradient, or if they end up being too long, you can stop a little early, but that is all your choice. So tonight, Suzanne is going to show us how to knit 2 at a time toe up magic loop socks. There are lots of methods for knitting toe up socks. This is just one of them, but we hope that will give you some inspiration to start that. So I'm going to turn it back over to Suzanne to get us started, and I will start putting all of this information in the chat so everybody can see it.
All right, thank you, Laura. And please, I like people saying hi from all over. So yeah, just feel free to say hi in the chat, and also post your questions there. And like I said, this is going to be recorded, so it's just meant to give like an overview of 2 at a time socks. But please do ask questions. I'm going to show you the way I like to do it. It's not the only way. There are lots of ways. So be free, experiment. But let's get started.
One
we're gonna
final thing I forgot to mention is if you don't win the needle set tonight, the needle set is going to be 20% off for the I believe for the next week. Yes, they're till Friday, 20% off until September 15th, 2023. And the in-sync colorways are the in-sync colorways, both the gradient and the regular, are also 20% off. There is no coupon code. You just add those items to your cart and check out, and you'll see the 20% off when you get to the checkout window.
Yay. And I just saw a question and it already got answered, but I'll answer it for everybody. Can you knit top-down socks 2 at a time? And the answer is yes. And I'll talk a little bit about that at the end, but I'm going to show you 2 at a time toe up first. So without further ado, I'm going to switch over to my other camera here and get started. So I do have the longest cable from the mini set attached. The nice thing about the mini set with the 4-inch tips, you have 2 tightening holes. I know it's hard to see here, but you have 2 tightening holes, so you can use both of the T-pins that are included and really tighten those together to get your join nice and tight. And let's see, I'll talk about it a little bit more later. I think that the longest cable that's included with the mini set is plenty for 2 at a time socks. And I will show you that here. But you can connect more than one cable together to get a longer cable. And that's what I do when I get up into the heel. So I'll talk about that then. But all right, to start, I like to use the I think it's called a Turkish one. It's listed in the pattern. There's a couple different methods of casting on that are listed in the pattern. But you'll see your yarn will have 2 strands coming out, which is really nice for doing 2 at a time because you don't have to worry about 2 balls different places. But you just use 1 strand at a time. So start with 1 strand and we're going to make a slip knot. And for the method that I like, you don't need a long tail. So just make a slip knot. I'm going to hold both of the needles parallel and put the knot on the bottom of the 2 needles. So the slip knot is going to get taken out later. I hate to leave slip knots in my knitting because they're like a fixed join that you can't, I don't know, swish your stitches around or like adjust your stitches a little bit. But so the slip knot is going to be taken out, but place the slip knot on the bottom, and then you're going to take the yarn and just wrap it around both needles at the same time. So go behind your needles first and then come around and wrap it around. So we're just going to wrap it around the pattern. I think it's 12 stitches to start, so I'm going to wrap around 12 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I'm just going to kind of make sure that they're not super spread out and just wrapped around. On the last one, when I come over, instead of just leaving it here, I'm going to go between the needles. Let's see, can you see that well? Between the needles and then underneath and through the needles. And that just kind of locks it in place a little bit so that we can start our second sock. So that was the cast on. That's it for the first sock. And now the second sock, I'm going to grab my yarn again, my other yarn, the other strand, and do a slip knot and do the same thing. So place the slip knot on the bottom of the 2 needles, just pull it tight, and then wrap 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But on the 12th one, I'm going to go between the needles. I came over the top of between the needles, underneath, and then between again to lock it in.
We had a question if you could show the cake again with the strands coming out.
Yeah, so this is actually not one of the official cakes. I just wound it together for this demo, but this is like one of the official cakes. So you'll see it has 2 strands coming out, and the colors line up then as you pull them out, at least at the beginning. You know, as you get going, you'll knit with one for a little bit and then switch back and forth. But at least you know, the colors line up as they come out of the cake. You can see that.
The other question we got is what needle size you should be using. This pattern is a little bit of a recipe, and it's written so that you can make socks that fit your size foot. Yeah. I used a size US 1 when I knit mine. Suzanne, are you using a 0?
I'm using a 1 right now, but
Okay.
I have another pair of socks ready to go to show you the heel when we get there. And on that one, I'm using a size 2. So
the pattern is very instructive about here's the number of stitches you cast on, and then you're going to knit until the sock accommodates your toes, and it tells you how to try on and tell. So basically, whatever gauge you're comfortable with. If you like using 0s, great. If you like using 1s, great. If you like using 2s, great. It's whatever gauge you like for your socks and whatever's fitting you. Okay, more questions. Is there a reason to wrap the needles counterclockwise versus clockwise?
Yes, you need to wrap so if like the tips are facing towards you like this, I was going around this way, so that's counterclockwise. If I can get those in there, counterclockwise around the needles if the points are facing you. If you're holding it in your left hand and then wrapping with your right hand, it goes behind the needle first and then in front, and then all of your stitches will be lined up correctly, so you won't have to knit through the back loop or anything.
Okay, the other question was, so you wind a ball with 2 strands if you're using different yarn. I wouldn't suggest that. The benefit to these cakes is that they're dyed so you get identical socks. If you are using 2 balls of yarn or something else like Knit Picks, something else that comes in 2 cakes, you can do this with 2 separate balls of yarn. The only reason we're doing this is because this is a double-stranded gradient. So that's the only reason.
I wouldn't bother actually wrapping them together if they're not already done for you. It is nice that they're done for you, but all right. So after we've done that with both yarns, then we're going to knit across the top stitches. So we're going to knit across. So I'm going to call this sock 1 and this sock 2. So we're going to knit across sock 1 and then across sock 2. And then we're going to go to the other side of sock 2 and then back to the other side of sock 1. Okay, so I'll show you that. It's going to become more clear as I get going here. But for Magic Loop, if you're familiar, you pull the bottom needle out. So I'm pulling this needle out so that the bottom stitches are now on the cable. And then I'm going to pull enough so that I still leave a loop on this side, and I'm going to make myself enough of a loop to knit with on the other side. And then just knit across these stitches. So the first round is just to knit, and then we'll get into the decreases. Or sorry, increases next.
And I know you're probably going to cover this, but someone is asking about the yarns tangling, and I mentioned that you would probably discuss how to mitigate that a little bit as you work through these rounds.
I will. Yes, I'll show you. Okay, so when you get to the end of this, you'll see that the slip knot is down here on the cable. So that's where it should be. And then when you're in between, this is when you need to drop one yarn and pick up the other yarn for your 2 at a time socks. So slide your stitches over. So now this sock is just hanging out and I'm starting on the other sock. So I'll work across these stitches. Oops.
Does the cast on that you used have a specific name? It's just a wrapped cast on, isn't it?
Yeah, I call it wrap on, but in the pattern, she talks about it. I think she calls it a Turkish cast on. So maybe that's the right name. All right, so I got to the end here and I have the slip knot on the cable. And now I need to knit across the stitches that are on, that are hanging out on the cable. So just to try and make it clear, I'm going to pull the cable back, pull the cable on this side so that my needle comes back into those stitches, and turn my work like this. And then I'll kind of push that needle back into those stitches and pull this one out. So now I'm going to start knitting with that, the bottom needle. So again, I make a loop on one side and make another loop on the other side, and then start working. So again, I'm still actually on sock 2 at this point. So now I'm just going to work my way. Oh, sorry. Most importantly, first is now I see that slip knot. And so the slip knot, I'm just going to let it fall off the needle and pull it out. And that's it. Just pull it out and let it hang down, and then start knitting. And work across the other side of the sock number 2. All right, forgive me for looking a little fumbly on camera here. So once we get to the other side, sometimes it's a little twisted there. Once we get to the other side, now we're in the middle. So I'm going to drop my yarn and pick up the other yarn. And now I'm back to sock 1, to the second side of sock 1. And so I have the slip knot here. So I'm going to let the slip knot just slip off and pull it out, and then knit across here. And that stitch could get a little big because it's connected to the yarn, but you can just pull and it goes back to its right size. All right, so knit across. And that is the setup. We've already completed the first round in the sock. Almost. Now we have, all right. So we have 2 separate socks still. Now I can do again, I pull the cable until the needle comes in, and I'll spin. So now I'll start working back across these top stitches. And now is when we start doing increases. So we're going to do an increase on each side, on both sides, every other round. So again, if we just get started here. It's a knit 1 and then a make 1. And when we're on the right side of the sock, we do a make 1 right. And when we're on the left side of the sock, we'll do a make 1 left. Well, that's pretty easy, right? And my little mnemonic is I say I left, it's a make 1 with the bar below. So that's where you have to pick up the bar and then make sure that it's twisted the right way, basically. But how I remember it is I say make 1 right. I'll be right back because I left the front door open. So when I'm on the right side, I think I'll be right back. That means I take the left needle tip and put it from the back to the front. I'll be right back under that bar. And then I want to make this stitch twisted. So if I just knit into it this way, it's going to be an open hole. You can kind of tell that. So that means I want to work into the front of this stitch to make it twisted. And that is a make 1 right. And so then we're going to knit all the way across. And then we'll do a make 1 left. And when we make 1 left, we remember that we left the front door open. And so we take our needle tip and go into the front of that bar. So I get to the last stitch, and then I'm going to do a make 1 left. So take my left needle tip and put it in the front of the bar. Now, if I knit into the front of this stitch, there would be a big hole. you see that? So in this case, I'm going to knit into the back of the stitch so that that stitch twists and closes up any hole. And then knit one. Okay, so now I just did that on, I did like one side of sock 1, and now I'm going to go to sock 2. So I slip my stitches over and I pick up my yarn. So anytime you have like the stocks split between your needle, that's when you need to switch yarn and go to the other one. When you're on the ends, it's where you get to kind of stay on the same sock to do a U-turn. So again, on sock 2, I do make one, knit one, make one, right. Knit one, make one right. I'll be right back. So I put it from back to front. And then I go into the front of the stitch to make it twist. Does anybody else have any other mnemonics that they use, or how do they remember how to do it? I don't know. I say it to myself every time I'm doing it. That's kind of boring. But all right, so when you get to the left, then I left the front door open, so I'll go into the front of that bar with the left needle. Sometimes I use my right needle to just help myself out there, and then knit into the back of it to make it twist. And then knit one. All right, so now I'm gonna stay on the second sock as I turn this corner, because you'll see both of my socks are kind of on the same side now, and I need to, I usually like kind of leave them scrunched up together. Pull the cable out, kind of spin it around and push the needle into those top stitches and pull this needle out and around. All right, so, and then again, knit one and make one right. So I'll be right back. And then sometimes I kind of pull it to give myself room to get into the front of that stitch. And one right.
You had a few things. Susie says that's the same trick she uses. Catherine says right and front have 5 letters, left and back have 4.
Nice, that's a good one.
I like my left and not the right. I like make one left more, and I'm left-handed, make one right is harder. So I like my left and not the right is my memory aid.
Okay, I left the front door open. And then
someone else said right and rear start with the same letter.
Oh, there you go. That's a good one too. All right. So that was the second sock. Now I need to knit the first sock. And then I'll stop and show you how I untangle. How about, okay, I'll be right back or right. All right, and then get all the way across. These are kind of little needles, I know, to show, but I wanted to show some real things here.
In terms of trying to knit along, this tutorial may go kind of quickly tonight because we don't have a ton of time, but this tutorial will be on our YouTube channel either later tonight or most likely tomorrow morning. And all of our YouTube tutorials, or all of our Tuesday tutorials are there, and you can always watch it and slow it down and watch it as many times as you like later.
All right, so I just finished that one, pull my needles in and turn my work. At this point, or even sooner, you can put, let's see, I'm gonna try and force my knitting. So you'll see that I'm starting to form the socks here. There's the toes. Can you see it like getting punched up there? And so you can put a stitch marker or like a safety pin or something on the first sock. That's what I usually do, so that I know when I've done a complete round on both socks. So when you've done a complete round on both socks, and if you put a safety pin or something here, you'll know that that you've completed that round. Because now it does get a little bit, you have to pay attention just an ooncy tiny bit, because you're going to do one round just plain and then one round of increase. And you're going to keep doing that until you get your socks to be big enough to fit over your toes. And as you get going, it's going to start to look like this. I'm going to zoom ahead to my other sock that I already have, that I'm already at the heel for. So the other thing is, things do get a little bit twisted for me, because I usually always turn the same direction. So I'm like increasing that twist. But also just the nature of the yarn, they're going to get a little bit twisted. So what I like to do is I take either, sometimes I just let this hang, and I'll take my my yarn and split it like this and just let things untwist. I don't know if you can see it there, but let things untwist. Or the other way is I'll take my needle, another needle or something that I have in my bag, say, and do this with it to just keep the yarn from pulling out. And then I will, that way. So I just stuck a needle through that to keep it from pulling when I do this. And then I just let it untwist like this. That's
now, the slightly more complicated way, and if it adds too much to it, don't worry about it. But what I did is, as I knit my socks, when I finished one side, I would turn one direction, and then the other side I would turn back. So if you have worked like that before and you're comfortable doing that, then you don't have to. If basically your yarns are going to twist if you always turn in the same direction, but if you turn clockwise, then counterclockwise, and repeat that process, you will not actually twist.
Yes. So. Yes, but it's easier for me usually to just every once in a while untwist the ball.
Someone asked if the setup is the same for English knitting. I'm tempted to say yes.
Yes. Yep. It's exactly the same. You'll just be throwing instead of picking like I was. Yeah, but everything is exactly the same. I can try and throw a little bit too if it's helpful to actually see it that way. But now I'm going to jump to my other needles so that you can get a better picture, or my other sock here, of what's going on. So I know this is dark yarn, but I'm into a lighter color section, so hopefully you'll see that. So this is the one that I was just working on, that we were working on. And it looks like this. Once you get a little bit farther, your toes start to become, let's see if I can push my yarn through. So you can imagine, like, this is the toe growing out here. And you just work like that the whole way until you are ready to work the heels.
You have do you have like the white pair with the brown stripes on
yes.
you? Gail sent those back. You might show the toe on that one, because I think it'll show a little bit easier.
Yes. So here is what it looks like.
Just because it's a white color as opposed to all black.
Yeah. So the socks will sit like this, two together on your needles, and you'll increase. You'll do an increase round and then a plain round, increase round, plain round, until you get to the point, she talks about it in the pattern, until it's just like almost to your pinky toe, because you don't want them to be too loose. And so I kind of look about the same here. Maybe I did a little less, but I'm on a bigger gauge needle anyway. So this is how they're going to look until you get to where you need to stop for the heel. So there's a lot of different ways to do heels too. We're just showing you one. This particular pattern, you do a heel flap, and then you turn the heel, and then you pick up for a gusset. So that's the part I'm going to show you right now. And here, I'll show it on here.
Two small things. One, I can't remember whether it's the tip of the pinky toe or the base, probably the tip. And the other thing that I will suggest is, if you have knit socks for yourself before, if this is your first time knitting socks, obviously you won't know, But if you have knit socks for yourself before, think about whether you have used 56, 60, 64, 72 stitches. Like what you've used in the past will probably be about what you're using here. I know I knit mine for a size medium and I went with 60 stitches. I know my feet are small. I have a size 6.5 foot and I usually knit 56 stitches. But again, that's going to depend on the needle and the gauge and what's comfortable for you, and whether you like your socks a little snug with negative ease or whether you like them, you know, to be just a little bit looser.
Yeah. Yes, I have giant feet, unfortunately, so I have to knit a lot for socks. So when you get to your instep, or just past your instep, is when we start for the heel. So at that point, you're going to start, let's see. Well, sorry, after you've gotten enough for your toes, then you just knit plain stockinette. Unless you want to be fancy and add in a pattern, you can do that on the tops or wherever you want to add it. But in these, I'm just doing super plain vanilla ones. I'm just letting the yarn do the work for me here. So once you got to a certain point, I did a little video earlier showing a lifeline. So if you want to, you could put a lifeline in before you start a new section. It's really easy with the ChiaoGoo needles because they have a little hole that you can put things in through. So once you get to where you're starting the heel, then you stop working in the round and you just work back and forth. You can still do both socks, but you just work back and forth. So like if we were here in our sample, you'll just work back and forth on these. So you will have to do wrong side rows or purl rows. So that's what we did here. I just worked back and forth to get these heel flaps. And then I'm going to show you, so then there's one section of the socks where you just work on one sock at a time, and that's for the short rows. And so I already did the short rows on the first sock, and I'll show you what I did, but so they look like this. So when at some point your needles are just going to be kind of in the ends and you'll just have worked back and forth, and these just hung out on the like the tops of your socks just hang out on the needle. But once you get to where you need to do short rows, then you just work the short rows on one sock, and then you go and work the short rows on the other sock, and then you go back to doing it in the round both at the same time. So that's the only little small part where you're going to be doing socks or just working on one at a time. And that's what I did here. Okay, sorry, let me get things straightened out so that it doesn't look too crazy. So this comes straight. So I worked this heel. You can see how there's like a little turn here. I don't know if you can really see it very well. I can show you on the other socks. But I turned the heel. And then I picked up stitches all along this flap. So picked them up along the flap, and then I'm going to go to the second heel and do the exact same thing on the second one. And that's what I'm going to show you right now, so that you'll see what you do. So you are just using one strand of the yarn. Obviously, you always are using one strand, but so there's a little bit of setup that she describes well in the pattern. So I'm just gonna walk you through that. So we find the center. So we should be, she has you decrease by one stitch so that you get to an odd number of stitches. So you should have an odd number of stitches on your heels here. So you find the center one, which for me is, I only have, I think I have 37 stitches. I can count fast here. 5, 10, 15, 20. So I have 25 stitches. So my middle point, let's see, was the 13th stitch. All right, so I count to 13 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So this is my middle stitch. And then she has you count 5 on either side of that. But then she tells you, so count 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But then she tells you you want this set of stitches to be even. Did you do this, Laura? Or
Yes.
do you remember? Yeah. So then did you go and decrease?
I did decrease
So-
one so that I would have the even.
Even, yeah. So I might have cheated a little bit here, but what I did is I just counted 6 stitches on either side of the, so my heel cup is going to be a little bit wider. But what you can do is just on your round before you're ready to start, you can decrease on one on each side, or increase. Or you can do what I did, which is what I'm going to show you. So then I only was left with 6 stitches on either side. So you can place a marker. That's what she does, place a marker. Or you can just remember where you need to be, because you're going to create a gap and then you'll be able to see that gap. So I'm going to get these out of the way now, just so you can see a little bit better. And now I'm in a slip one, knit one pattern. So it's that slip that first one, knit one, and then slip one, knit one across until I get to where I want to turn. And I'll show you that. And I put a lifeline, that's what you're seeing here, just in case I needed to get back to this point. And
A lifeline is just when you run a strand of thread or lighter weight yarn or even dental floss through the row of stitches, just so that if you have to unpick your way back, you have a clear starting point.
Yes.
Just for anyone.
All right. So I get to where I have the 6 stitches left. And then on this side, she has you do an SSK. After you got to the marker, SSK, and then knit one, and then turn your work. So she's not having you do any wraps and turns or anything, just turn and then slip the stitch purlwise. And then purl back across.
When you do the SSK next time, show them how you do it all in one move.
Yes, sorry, I forgot. Okay.
Just do it when you get to the next one.
Yes, yes. All right, so that's my SSK trick. But all right, so I get to where I have 6 stitches, just purling back. And on this side, you just get to purl 2 together, and then purl 1, and then turn. And we're going to keep doing that same thing until all of the stitches have been worked, that are, now I see a gap here. Can you see that? There's a gap between my stitches, and then there's another gap over here. And we're going to work until we don't have that gap anymore. So on this side, I'm going to slip one knitwise with the yarn in back, and then I'm going to go back into my my stitch pattern. And so I just kind of look and see what my stitch pattern is doing. I always slip that first stitch, even if I shouldn't, based on the stitch pattern. But it kind of makes a rib, so I can tell that these are the slip stitches and these are the knit ones. So I'm going to knit that stitch, slip the stitch, knit the stitch. And then when we get here, I'll show you what to do.
And if it is too hard to figure out which ones are the knits and which ones are the slips, you can just knit the heel turn if you want to.
Yes, and I'll show you, because Laura did it on one of the socks. So that was a good.
Oh, did I?
You did. I don't know if you meant to or not, but all right. So now when I'm going to do the SSK, I'm going to do the SSK across the gap. So when I see the gap, I'm going to leave 1 stitch in front of the gap and 1 stitch after to do the SSK. And I like to do SSKs in one motion. So normally when you SSK, you slip the stitch, slip the next stitch, and then knit them together through the back loop. But I like to just go into the first stitch knitwise, and then I go into the next stitch from the back and knit them together. And it does the same thing. It orients the first stitch on top of the second stitch. So it makes it you know, lay the right way. And then knit the next stitch and then turn. And then slip the first stitch purlwise with the yarn in front and work purls back. And as soon as I get done, I only have one more on each side, and I will show you what it looks like if you choose not to keep if you don't keep that pattern going, it's fine. But we work until we see that gap. All right, so here's that big gap, and then purl these two together, and then purl one and turn. And you can see now I only have one stitch left. But I'll slip that first stitch and get into my pattern. So it's another slip. And here's the gap. So knit into the front and then into the back and come back through that window. All right, and then turn and work back so that we get the purl. Slip this one. And then we'll do one more back, and then I'll show you the picking up the stitches. And I know we're running a lot over here, but there's so much to cover.
Fine.
So we will take a break after this and do the giveaway. How about that? Okay, so now I can purl these two together and turn. Slip and get back into my pattern, maybe. Okay. I know it's hard to see that pattern on the camera, but you'll be able to see it on your own work a little easier. It looks like ribbing, and the ones that stick out, that stick up, those are the ones that are getting slipped. And then I'll just knit the last two. All right, so at this point, I'm kind of back. Let's see. I'm going to pick up stitches all along this edge, and then get back into going into the round. And so let's take a pause. Let's pause. Oh, here, actually, first I'll show you the heels on the socks that Laura made. So you can see in this one, she kept the stitch pattern all the way through the heel. And it's just looks like a little bit of a rib, kind of makes it a little cushiony. And in this one, she stopped doing it just in the part where she's doing the short rows. And so then you have just this little smooth heel cup kind of thing. And then she went back into it going up. But
I was going to say that was unintentional, but I think it still works.
Yeah, it worked. It looks fine. And it was a great example. So it's perfect. But yes. All right, let's pause. Let's switch this up here. Maybe.
Can you switch back to your face or no?
Trying. Let's see. Yeah. All right. So now I think we need to we're gonna open our chat. So we're gonna do a question. Laura.
Yeah. So if you are on your phone watching, be sure that you open your chat. This is the part of the evening where we're gonna give away the needle set. And I'm vamping here so everybody can get their chat open. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask a question, and you're gonna type your answer in, and I am going to take the 7th answer. Now, if you don't have an answer to this question, then just make one up. Okay. So, my question is, what is your favorite way to knit socks? Okay, now I'm going to scroll back in the chat and I'm going to pick our seventh person. So let's see.
This is kind of fun. We get to see all these.
I know. And my screen is still moving. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let me double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, it looks like Janice Shilb, you are the winner. So what you're going to want to do is down in the chat window, you can find Zen Yarn Garden in the chat, and you are going to want to notify Roxanne that it is you, and she'll be at Zen Yarn Garden, and she will take care of getting that set shipped out to you. So congratulations. Again, for those of you who did not win tonight, the set is available at Zen Yarn Garden, and it will be available for until September 15th for 20% off. So if you think you would like to, I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the chat again for that. And thank you all for attending tonight. The other thing that I want to tell you before we ask if there's questions and whatnot is that we do Tutorial Tuesdays. Well, less frequently lately, but we're going to get back into it now that it's fall. And our next Tutorial Tuesday is actually coming up next Tuesday, the 19th, and that is going to be Explore the Magic of Binding Off and Casting On Mid-Project. And we are using a shawl called Bejazel for that, and it has big intentional holes in the shawl, and that's how we're going to create them. So Suzanne and I will be back. And you can register for that. I just went ahead and put the link in the chat. We do ask, they are free to attend, but we ask that you register.
Yes. All right, and we'll get back to it. I am going to show you just how to pick up these stitches, and then a quick back into that loop, how it looks going around on the 2 at a time. I'm going to toe up. So let me get back to my computer or my other camera here. All right, so this is where I left off. And now I'm going to, maybe I should take out this just so it's not in the way and annoying there. All right. So now we're just going to pick up a stitch, I know it's hard with this yarn again, but it's a little easy to see when you're in person. You can see each little stitch because each of these is slipped. So in the pattern, she tells you you're always slipping that first stitch. And so that makes it a little easier to see. Now there's a couple different ways you could do it. You could go into both legs of the stitch. Is that what you did, Laura? I think so. I think that's what it looked like. Into both legs of the stitch.
Yes.
Or
yeah,
you
I
can
find
go,
it creates less holes that way, but
okay. I was looking, for me, it was creating less if I was just going into one. So you can kind of see what it is for yourself. But you can go into both, or you can go into just like the back leg is what I did. And either way, you just go into the stitch and then pretend like you're knitting. So go into the stitch and grab the yarn. Let me see if I can throw doing this. So you'll go into whichever way you want to pick it up and then throw your yarn and kind of pull it over here. You can also like use your other needle to pick this stitch up, and then you'd actually just knit into it. But I find it easy enough to just go into the loop and wrap the yarn and pull it through without having to pick up that other needle. Is that kind of clear? All right, so you go in and make sure you pick your yarn through that. Just be consistent whichever way you decide. I would say through both legs is probably good, or the back leg, because then it's going to be smooth on the inside, smoother on the inside, maybe. All right, and when you get all the way to the bottom, we're gonna pick up one more stitch, kind of in this corner. So we're gonna actually go into the stitch that's like from below. All right, and now we're kind of back around. So let me pull my needles to get sorted out.
And the first couple rounds after you pick up the stitches for the heel flap, they're gonna feel a little awkward.
Yes.
And that's okay.
Yes.
If it does, you're not alone.
You're not alone. So that's where we have, like, now we've got our heels, we've got stitches picked up along one side, and then we have the heel and stitches picked up along this side. So it's a little bit wonky. But now what we're going to do is knit across the tops of both socks. So here we go. I'm just knitting, just working across the top. Or if you just chose to put in a pattern or something, then you would do that pattern now. Okay. Lifeline is annoying here, but okay. Oh, one thing I did forget to do is we were supposed to put a marker before we started picking up stitches right at the edge there, so that we know where to do this slip stitch pattern. But I'll just make up for it when I get back around there. But if you're doing it on your own, try to remember, I put one here. Try to remember to put a marker before you start picking up stitches, and that'll make it easy for you. All right, so now we're in between the two socks, and let's see. There's a couple ways. So let's see. So now we're going to pick up stitches along this edge and then come back over here. Right? Is that how you did it, Laura? Or did you keep the heels both back? Yeah.
I kept the heels both on the back needle. It's a little awkward, okay. But
so right now I'm gonna we'll work across first. Yeah. Okay, so I pick up my other yarn, so we keep our socks separate. And then this is my other trick to not get ladders, is I don't really worry about it until after I knit the first stitch. So I'll just knit that first stitch and then take it off. And now I kind of pull tight. And if you do that, it kind of helps lock in and makes so there's no ladders. If you try to pull tight right away, I find it's just a little too awkward and hard and it ends up slipping. But if you just don't worry about it until after you knit that first stitch, then pull tight, it seems to work out pretty well.
So two things. One, if you have never knit socks before and you're feeling a little intimidated by this tutorial, either because the yarn is small and the needles are small, We did do a set of tutorials about a year and a half ago where we worked on worsted weight socks. And so I have added a link to that in the profile. Now they are top-down socks, but they'll give you slightly larger needles, slightly larger yarn, and get you through the anatomy of a sock. I wouldn't say that this pattern is the one we're doing today is super complicated, but it's got a few more bells and whistles than the basic sock we did before.
Oh my
Yes, good point.
So I will leave that in there, and that's on our YouTube channel with all the tutorial Tuesdays. And then Britta, I'll respond to your comment directly.
Okay, so we now are along this side. So now, just like before, I'm going to give myself a little loop here to start picking up. I'm going to pick up one that's just a stitch in this like corner here. So go from front to back and pick that up. I should take my lifeline out. I'll take it out so that it doesn't look. All right. So I picked up one stitch and now I'm going to do the same as I did before. And since I was picking up just through the back loops, that's what I'm going to do here too.
The question to did she switch yarns when picking up stitches? You do need to pick up your stitches with the yarn that is attached to the sock you are currently working on.
Yes. So we'll do one. I'll get across the back sock and then show you picking up the other one.
Yeah, the only thing to watch for when you're doing two at once is to make sure that you don't use one strand across the two socks, because if you do, your socks will be connected, but it is also fairly easy to pull out if you do it accidentally.
Yeah, you just have to work back. You have to undo it, right?
Yeah.
All right, so getting up here. And this is where, if you were on that mini set, you might want to switch to a longer cable for this section. Because I do have kind of a lot going on here. But you can see I have a loop here at the beginning, and then I pulled out a loop before I picked up those stitches. And now I'm going to kind of leave that loop there so that all of my stitches are on the back needles. If you need to, you can like pull yourself another loop. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. Pull myself another loop here to get across, because there's kind of a hard turn there.
Once you get a few rounds going and do a few decreases, it will be a little easier.
Yeah, then you don't need to. And here's where I'm going to pick up that slip stitch pattern again so I can see. So I'm going to do my knit one and then just pull tight and then slip one. Knit one, slip one across. And then what you're going to do in these, oh, I was also, well, here, there's going to be a marker there to designate where I'm doing this slipped one, knit one section. And then we're going to start doing decreases. Let's see if we can see it on these socks. We're going to start doing decreases when we get back, where this heel connects to the top of the sock. There's going to be decreases.
The white and brown one.
Mm-hmm.
Only because it will show it easier.
Yes. Try to get it in the
Sorry.
point. Nope, that's good. So now I just knit this back of the heel right above. So now these are all the ones I picked up, and I'm going to just work those straight. But when we get over here, there's going to be a decrease. So you can see that that decrease really prominently there. So when you're on the left side, you get to do just a knit 2 together. And then when you're on the right side, you'll do a an SSK. All right, so I don't know how much more people want to see. We can talk about, we can get across, oh, I should get across this one so we can pick up those other stitches, huh?
So
and
we're getting towards the end of our time. If you have questions about this one, please go ahead and start putting them in chat so we can make sure we get them answered before we finish.
Yes.
And remember that, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Nope. Okay, so now I'm going to pick up the stitches with the other needle. So I have my yarn. I switched yarns. I dropped this other yarn because that's this sock. And now I need to pick up stitches all along here with the yarn that's connected to this sock. So find that yarn and not your lifelines if you used them. And use that yarn to pick up stitches with this free needle. So first is just grab a stitch that's kind of in that corner, and then you're going to look for all of your slipped stitches. Which are much easier to see in person. It is easy to split yarn with such pointy needles, but let's take it out.
Suzanne said she is picking up the back leg of the stitch. I picked up both legs of the slipped stitches, so you can do either. It's really a personal preference.
And I'll show you both ways or what they look like.
And I just added in the links to the yarn, links to our YouTube channel, links to register for next week's tutorial, which will be something completely different.
A little easier.
Yeah,
but it's equally interesting. So all right, so I just picked up all along there, and now I would put a marker. I'm going to remember to put a marker to designate the back of my heel, and then work across the heel and back down. And now I can start doing the increases and the decreases at your corners. So here, let's see.
Do you know which gradient you're working with? If not, I'll find it on the
I
site.
am working with Rebecca. It's a really pretty one. Let me see it. So, all right. Any last minute questions? I know that was really a lot to absorb, but let's see.
We have not done a video for 2 at a time top down. Maybe one day. We're working through socks slowly. We started with a worsted weight sock last year. We did barley by rye by Tin Can Knits, and then we did a toe up lace weight little anklet sock. And so this is our next foray into it, and it was again inspired by the double sock blank and how we can use 2 strands at once. So yes. We will keep that in mind for a future tutorial.
Yes. Okay, we'll save it for then.
To do top down?
Yeah, for top down, the only like kind of difference is that you have to cast on half of the stitches, and then you switch to the other yarn, cast on half, and then you kind of pull out your loop, and then you cast on the other half for the second sock, and then you go back to the other half of the first sock. If
Yeah,
that was helpful.
the cast on's a little convoluted, but of course then
Yeah.
you're not increasing right away, so you get to work on the leg first.
Yeah,
So
then you just
both
get to go
methods
after that.
have, I mean, I personally prefer knitting my socks top down, but I like doing it this way because of gradient yarn and because I'm a spinner, and so when I'm using my hand spun yarn, I want to use as much of it as possible. So if you're really trying to use all the yarn, then toe up is the way to go.
Yes, because you don't have to save enough to make sure that your foot is, long enough that you have enough for your foot. You can just keep going until you're almost out and then cast off.
And you can even make knee socks if you have small feet or extra yarn.
Yes.
So thank you all for coming.
Yes, thank you so much.
See you again soon. We're glad to get back into it. And next week we'll be working on, like I said, the Bejazel shawl. And it's a really pretty shawl, and it reminds me a little bit of Swiss cheese, the way it has holes in there, and it works with 2 different weight yarns, so it's kind of fun.
Yes, and I think I get to give away a fixed needle too at this one, so come back.
I was going to say you're our ChiaoGoo rep, so I don't know what's coming, but
yes.
So thank you. Have a wonderful night, and for those of you who want to rewatch, it will be up on YouTube by sometime tomorrow. Good night.
Thank you so much.